welcome to the third episode of Bunker Hill's monthly series, Journey to Restart. I'm pleased to introduce the CEO of Bunker Hill, Sam Ash, as well as their chairman, Richard Williams. The team is going to review the latest from Bunker Hill and afterwards go into some questions using the Q&A tab found on the right-hand side of your screen live. Remember that you can access that Q&A. It's right beside the general chat. But as a note, because this is a 6-series event, with your registration and attendance today, you'll automatically be registered and notified of all future episodes. As always, this event is being recorded and it's going to be available on 6.com in the coming days. Without further ado, Sam, I'd like to pass things over to you to get us started.
Thank you, Cam, and welcome everyone in attendance. And it's a pleasure to be talking about another successful month at Bunker Hill. October was really the beginning of what we're seeing at Bunker Hill as a transition to a lot more on-site activity as we move towards restart. Happy to report that the demolition at Pend Oreille is now complete, and that's a pretty big milestone for the company. You know, that's a significant achievement achieved ahead of schedule and under budget. Here at site, we've moved forward and we've begun the procurement process for the new mill building, as well as the demolition of the existing building that is in the footprint of where the new mill building will be constructed and built. Along those lines, we have done the requisite geotechnical drilling to ensure that foundation designs are appropriate for the mill that's going to be built. I'm looking out the window now, and there's a little bit of snow in the mountains here in Kellogg, Idaho. And as a part of that winter preparation, we have done a winter preparation plan, and all of the Pend Oreille mill that we've acquired is now winterized. Sensitive components are all inside under cover, and we're well set up to continue progress at site through the winter months. In the underground, the development drifting continues. We achieved an additional 286 feet of development in the month of October and started what will be a pretty important milestone for the underground, which is the excavation of a drift that will house the primary ventilation fan that we look to be installing over the next couple of months. In summation, and just as an overview, couldn't be happier with where the project is at. We are certainly hitting our targets, both from a cost and timeline perspective. We're right where we want to be, and going forward through the next few months, you will see us accelerate the amount of on-site activity as we move towards restarting this mine. Cam, thank you very much. And with that kind of short but succinct overview of the October's progress, be happy to answer any questions that might be out there.
Absolutely. Talk about it. Short and succinct. I'd like to remind everyone in the audience, of course, that if you would like to engage in the Q&A session, we are now starting. Please do so using the Q&A chat found on the right-hand side of your screen. We already have a couple of questions that have come in, though, guys. So let's get started with that. Could you give some more explanation on the high-grade silver exploration areas?
Yeah, absolutely. So when you look at Bunker Hill's history, there was high-grade silver that was produced through the entire vertical horizon of the mine. Now, when the mine went into closure, there was certainly indications at the lower levels of the mine that silver grades were high and were increasing. All of those veins are open at depth, which is certainly a key focus for us and a reason why we're looking to get into production quickly at Bunker Hill to enable us to have the access to follow up on those deeper silver exploration opportunities. But that's not to say that there's not opportunity that exists throughout the mine. Certainly, the indications when in our development drift, when we encountered a high-grade silver vein are very encouraging. And we are working on making sure that we have plans in place to conduct silver-focused exploration as we move into production. And that's just in the existing mine footprint. I would remind everybody as well that the existing mine footprint is a relatively small proportion of the entire claim block that we control here at the Bunker Hill mine. And with the geophysics program that we ran last year, has certainly turned up some very interesting results indeed. And at the appropriate time, we will be looking to advance and move forward on the exploration front.
Absolutely. Next question. Has Minewater had previous successful experiences with another mining company doing what they do?
Absolutely, they have. You know, our Minewater joint venture partner it brings a wealth of experience in a wide range of complicated and complex water treatment challenges. And I would say, actually, from a purely technical perspective, you know, the water treatment challenge that we have here at Bunker Hill is relatively simple compared to some of the very complicated and challenging problems that they have faced as an organization.
Absolutely. How soon will the feasibility study be started and completed?
We're not planning on doing a feasibility study. Our pre-feasibility study demonstrates solid project economics and a great pathway to restart. And we feel, and we are advancing the engineering to the point that we think that, particularly considering that this is a brownfield restart with a significant amount of existing infrastructure in place, that it's entirely appropriate to move forward quickly towards production. And for that reason, we won't be doing a feasibility study. It is important to note, though, that just because we're not doing a feasibility study does not mean that the engineering work and detail behind that supports the startup won't be done at the appropriate time. We'll obviously have fully engineered and fully fleshed out technical aspects for all of the processing facility, tails, and on the mining front as well.
Absolutely. Rob in the audience has asked a couple of questions. I'm going to try and break it up as best I can. In the last update, you addressed the question on toll mining. Do you have any update on the management's thoughts on that front, considering the capital market has turned tighter?
Yeah, absolutely. You know, the ability to, there's two aspects to the tolling question. One is, do we have an ability to generate pre-production revenue prior to startup by mining ore and toll milling them at an adjacent property? You know, we're still certainly continuing to work on that. We still think that there is absolutely a potential to do that. Those conversations and discussions are ongoing with several different parties, and we're certainly still moving forward and looking to achieve that in 2023. On the other side of the equation, of the toll milling equation is, will our facility have the potential to be a source to accept ores to be toll milled? That is a possibility, particularly with the upsizing of the process throughput capacity. But at this time, discussions around that have not advanced significantly. But there is two opportunities, and we are actively advancing on one, which is the pre-production revenue potential and opportunity. And we have not yet really looked at or explored the opportunity to accept toll milling ores at this time.
Right. Okay. And all Rob asked, he sort of followed up specifying Teck Trails Refinery, which is a 4-hour drive from you. And is it a viable facility for toll mining? And is Teck even receptive to such an arrangement?
Yeah. So there is a smelter in close proximity, around 4 hours away. It is the natural home for the product that the mine will produce, which is a silver-enriched lead concentrate and a zinc concentrate. So the mine and the Bunker Hill mine will produce concentrate, and that concentrate will be sold onto the market. Now, it is certainly makes a lot of sense for a lot of reasons to consider local smelters first, particularly when you look at the supply chain challenges. And look, we are certainly in conversations with Teck. Teck is one of our shareholders, and those conversations are progressing very, very well.
What do you see? Do you see how much more working capital we have to raise to ensure we have sufficient financial flexibility moving forward to commercial production? And what will be the ideal mix of equity or non-equity instruments?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think it's clear, it has been clear, and we've talked several times before now about the financing and the financing of the restart of Bunker Hill. Our pre-feasibility calls for a $55 million capex requirement to get the mine into operation. Our financing partner, Sprott Royalty and Streaming, is providing $37 million through a multi-metal stream, and that obviously leaves a gap that needs to be filled. Now, we're very active in this space right now, and we have multiple options available to us, and we are advancing. I can't give a lot of detail on what are obviously some fairly sensitive commercial discussions at the moment. But what I can talk about is our philosophy for this. And when we are looking to finance this mine, there are two key aspects that are front and center in the way that we are approaching the financing. One is do it in the least dilutive manner possible. And number two, achieve the lowest cost of capital for restart. And those are at the forefront of our mind. And if you think about what that means and some of the options that are available out there in financing, with offtake arrangements, debt, and the equity markets as well, we are really in the final stages of achieving, that ultimate solution. Again, with the two primary focuses of minimizing the amount of dilution to our shareholders and achieving the lowest cost of capital possible.
No, fair enough. And David is just wondering if you can review how increasing costs may affect future financing.
Well, the interesting thing about Bunker Hill is that we're relatively insulated from inflation, particularly when you look in terms of that startup capex bill. We monitor obviously the cost of the activities that we are engaged in for a restart, and I think it's a pretty good indicator of our ability to control cost. When you look at the demolition and demobilization and relocation of the Pend Oreille mill, we were able to achieve that ahead of schedule and below the cost estimates that we projected to achieve that work. In other areas of the restart, we're seeing the opportunities to continue to bring down the capital cost. Inflation is something that we have to keep an eye on. But what I can say right now is that we are very, very comfortable with that capex number at a pre-feasibility level for restart, and we're confident that we're going to be able to achieve that. And I think that we're demonstrating that with the milestones that we're meeting up to this point.
Oh, fair enough. Another question: what's the latest intel regarding concentrate treatment and refining charges for your kind of ore?
Well, there's a lot of dynamics at play. Particularly in the base metal space right now. You have a kind of you have an increasing interest rate environment, but you also in Europe you have an energy crisis related to the war in Ukraine, and so you see energy prices in Europe increasing dramatically, and as I'm sure as everybody has seen in the news, a lot of smelting capacity in Europe has gone offline because of high energy prices. Now that is certainly having an impact on the price of metal and the warehouse level inventory levels. What I can say is it's going to be a very interesting 2023. When you look at the dynamic between mine supply and smelting capacity and balanced against the demand side for metals. My personal take and view is that the world is very much focused on the demand side of the equation right now. But I think that emerging through 2023 is going to be recognition that there is some significant supply side shortages, all of which are going to be supportive of metal prices in the medium to near term.
Right. Tony in the audience wants to know, how flexible will your mill be to move from lead versus zinc concentrates when negotiating with the smelter?
Yeah, so our processing plant and the processing flow sheet is a differential flotation plant. That means that it can accept ores that have lead, zinc, and silver in them and process that and separate that concurrently into two finished products. One is a zinc concentrate that has very little silver in it, and the other is a lead concentrate that has high amounts of silver in it. That's done concurrently and at the same time. So there really is no need to switch from one type of ore to another. Ores that contain lead, zinc, and silver can all be processed simultaneously.
Great, okay. Paul wants to know if the midterm elections outcome suggests any changes to your government relations in Idaho.
Interesting question. I think that in general, I have no idea how the midterm elections, are going to play out. But I think that what is more interesting to me and probably more critical is that you're beginning to see, regardless of political party, you're beginning to see a recognition at a government level around the criticality of metal supply and security, and a move towards and a focus towards looking to revitalize the mining industry and the metal production industry in the United States. Here in Idaho, what I can say is that we have very strong support for the mining industry at a state level. Idaho is a fantastic place to do business if you're a mining company. And I would just remind everybody that one of the distinctive characteristics of the Bunker Hill mine in this restart is that we are on private land and patented mining claims, meaning that our regulatory authority is the state of Idaho, which sets us apart from a lot of mining projects who are working through the federal NEPA permitting process, which can be a very extended process in length. The working with the state of Idaho as a regulatory authority really allows us to both maintain a very, very high standard for environmental performance, but at the same time move the project forward at a reasonable rate towards operation.
All right. Well, listen, Sam, Richard, I want to thank both of you for coming on today. That looks like all the questions we received from the Q&A and the audience. So before we wrap up, I'd like to hand things back to you guys for some closing remarks.
Sam, you go first.
Absolutely. I think that, I thank everybody for the questions. Those were all excellent questions. And, from where I'm standing right here, I couldn't be happier with where we're at with this restart. Just to remind everybody, it's been a pretty exciting journey so far. In less than a 3-year period, we've come from a project that was completely idled to being on the cusp of restart. We are a team, and the Bunker Hill Mine and Company is a company that is going to bring the Bunker Hill Mine into production and be one of the only mines in North America who is actually going to move from a project phase to a production phase in the next 12 to 18 months. I think that is pretty remarkable. And really, when you look at the opportunity that Bunker Hill presents, this is an opportunity to get on the ground floor of a value creation story that is going to be created as we move from the development phase into the production phase in a relatively short amount of time.
Good stuff, Sam, and for everybody on the call, thank you for your questions and for your interest. And I also want to thank Sam and the team for all that they are delivering, because delivery really is what we're measuring ourselves against. And this particular update in October shows some really, truly outstanding results. And I don't take leadership or people for granted. I just want to commend to all those listening on this call the outstanding achievements of Sam, David, Tom, Brad, and all the guys on the ground and the contractors, CMC, and more, for all that they're doing. It's through them that Bunker Hill will be back in production next year. Our valuation right now in the market is staggeringly low, reflecting assessments of risk that we think are overweight. If you think about it, and you read our PFS, our annual free cash flow of $25 million is what we're shooting for and more, and our current market cap does not reflect that. So watch this space for the next month's update to hear more delivery from this quite remarkable team that I'm very, very proud to work with, and I look forward to being on the call next month. Thank you, Sam. Thank you, Cam. And thank you everyone dialing in. But most importantly, thanks for all those working on the ground to make this quite remarkable mine come back to life.